The Kings are making the Warriors uncomfortable on offense. The Kings defense is knocking the Warriors out of getting into the spots that they want to get into. And it is remarkable. What are some of the things that you've been watching these first couple games?
Well, one thing we'll have to say is Michael Brown is doing an amazing job. He knows the cheat code. He knows the recipe to the original herbs and spices of the Warriors. And he's using it to his advantage. Even though you mentioned the defensive end, on the offensive end, he's basically telling Fox and Monk to make this a track meet. Look at these guys as like old men and make them run and run and run. And I think it ends up giving the Warriors fatigue on the other end. And so, like, Mike is like been the greatest Mr. Miyagi for this Kings team so far in terms of just making them feel equal, making them feel like they're better, making them feel like this isn't a fluke, that they're supposed to be a special team, that this is what they're supposed to do. And there's been nothing that I've seen in these first two games that suggests that they haven't been here before.
That's right.
Have been
I agree with
poised.
that.
They have been put the ball down your throat. They've been physical. They've been tough defensively. They're fed by their crowd. And the one thing that isn't really talked about the Kings, well, another thing, Harrison Barnes reminded me, he's like, yeah, if you guys had put us on national TV, you'd know how good we were, right? Told me that yesterday. But the Kings are the best team in the Western Conference on the road. So now they're bringing that best, they to me, they play better when they're on the road than when they're at home.
Spears, all the numbers reflect it. They are coming into the postseason. They were 29th in defense on their home court and 8th in defense on the road. They defend better on the road than they do at home. Now, I mean, I don't know if that'll carry, because let me tell you something. They were not 29th in defense performance-wise in these last two games.
No.
Kirk, I think the Warriors missed close to 63 pointers combined in these first two games. And the Warriors, I believe, just set the record for most threes ever made in a season. It's still a huge part of their offense. And yeah, they've missed some open looks, but a lot of their looks are heavily contested. I mean, Clay and Steph are having difficulty getting clean looks, at least the number of clean looks that we're used to seeing.
You're exactly right. And a couple of things that Spears said really stick out to me. And the Warriors have looked old. And part of that is credit to the just incredible athleticism and youth of the Sacramento Kings and the game plan, but they've looked old. There was a moment in game two where the sideline reporter asked Steve Kerr if he was worried about the turnovers at the end of the first quarter. I think the Warriors had 8 turnovers in the first quarter, Brian. And he kind of dismissed it because the defense was playing well. Turns out he shouldn't have been so dismissive, because they had 20 turnovers last night. The Kings got out into transition, had 29 points. De'Aaron Fox, if there's another player in the league right now that's more scary with the live ball turnover, I don't know who that is. They beat up the Warriors on the glass. They won the game in so many different facets. It wasn't a fluke. And I think what we saw with Draymond, I'm sure we'll talk about that a lot, but it was a frustration moment as much as anything. And one of the things that jumps out to me, and credit to Spears who saw this, the Golden State Warriors are the only team in California right now without a series lead. All the other California teams are doing better than them right now, and it's just remarkable to see that Sacramento just taking it to the defending champs like this. And the last thing I'll say to defend the Golden State, you talk about these drastic home road splits. Well, the only other team that maybe has more drastic splits is the Golden State Warriors. So going back to Chase, I think they got a chance to even this series up. But what we saw was the Kings doing exactly what they wanted in those first two games.
Yeah. So one of the things when you watch De'Aaron Fox play is most good offensive players have spots on the floor where they want to get to. You can go down the list of great scorers in history and you know where they are. Jordan liked the mid post. Once he got in the mid post, Kobe liked to operate on the wings. LeBron liked to operate on the wings. Dirk had the nail, for example. We could go on and on. Paul Pierce. Remember, he used to get to the elbow. So Fox has spots where he is very comfortable in getting to. They seem to be, he likes to be able to get, foul line extended area on the corners. The trick, though, is getting to those spots, right? Like anybody can establish a spot. And that's one of the things where you see the greats, like, Kawhi. I was talking on the last pod about watching Kawhi in game one, and, game two will be tonight. By the time this pod comes out, that game will have been played. But Kawhi knows exactly where he wants to go. And when he gets there, he's extremely comfortable. So De'Aaron Fox has that. He has developed that in his game. Early in his career, he had the floater, was really good for him. That he has, and he's developed a great mid-range shot, and he also has the floater. What's so impressive about him is that he's able to get to those spots, and to be able to get to those spots on the inside the 3-point line, when you are under 6'5", that's really hard. And he does it quite obviously with speed. Yeah. He's always had speed, but the way he is able to use his speed to get hit to his spots is elite. And then, of course, he basically, Davion Mitchell hit the dagger three, the rainbow three last night, but, Fox hit the big three from the top of the key. And what was the percentage chance that was going in? 96%. The ball came out to him. It couldn't have been in more rhythm of a shot in his life than that ball was in rhythm. And the confidence at which he goes to is just so impressive for a guy who's doing this for the first time. But I really think it's based, Kirk, in his ability to use his speed to get to those spots. And we have fast players in the NBA. It's not the first time we've seen it, but it is unusual for me to see a guy be able to execute like this under pressure. And if I'm the Warriors, I'm really trying to figure out, my game plan is going to be, how in the hell, what can we do on our alignment? Because they were throwing two and three guys at him, and they were throwing two. And by the way, Malik Monk's not far off.
Yeah.
Because Malik Monk operates as the curveball. He's pretty quick too. It's sort of like a fastball, a split fingered fastball. I don't want to make he's not a changeup, but Fox gets downhill, and they're able to go to Monk, and he gets downhill too. They're using that speed. It's not just speed in getting a turnover and running the other end and just outrunning them. It's speed within half court sets that's beating the Warriors just to basic rotations.
It reminds me, let me give you one comp, is Tony Parker. People forget how fast Tony was, and he could get to his teardrop and just he could score 20 points in the paint.
Yeah, he would lead the league in scoring in the paint year after year as a 6 foot, whatever he was, 6'1".
Yeah, and he was so fast, and he was so skilled with his finishing, and that's the kind of stuff. Great in the playoffs, by the way. And I think, and I want to hear what Spears says because he was in the building. Spears, did the Warriors look as slow in person as they do on TV, or is it more the Kings are fast? How do you see this?
Welcome to the De'Aaron Fox Show. I've been watching this. This kid is like a Ferrari, like the most amazing European sports car you will see. He could go to 0 to 100 in milliseconds, right? But then his body control is so amazing. He could stop on a dime. He can slow it down and get around potential charges and make this beautiful acrobatic layup. He's like a gymnast, not a gymnast, a ballet magician on the court.
Because really part of being great with speed is you have to have skill in stopping.
Yes. And his body control is the best in the league. I don't know anybody better. And the thing that's interesting with him, just kind of going back before the season, his wife played at Cal. Pretty good basketball player. She tried out for the Storm, and she actually broke her wrist going into De'Aaron's condo garage, or like this. She was trying to hit this code, and the car went back, and she caught her wrist and broke her wrist. and wanted to be in the WNBA so bad that she still tried out with a broken wrist and lied to him about what her deal was. Didn't make the team. Anyway, she was, I believe, I think she was a McDonald's All-American, all that. She could play. So his wife is also a basketball savant. She used to intern for the Warriors. And when she interned for the Warriors, the guy that she interned for was Luke Laux, now the player development coach for the Kings that Mike Brown hired. And when Mike Brown hired him, she called Luke and said, I need you to work with my husband. I need you to take him to the next level. And Mike Brown sent Luke to San Diego to work out with De'Aaron every day, get him in better shape, work on things to make his shot better, everything. He's a great player development coach. He even went with them on their honeymoon. And so now I think we've seen this. Luke has basically been on Fox's hip, helping taking his game to the next level. And it was interesting that this was the connection with his former intern, his wife, that pushed this relationship with Fox that ultimately got him to get in better shape, to fine-tune his game and take his game to the best level of his career at the best time of his career so far.
You know, before we talk about the Draymond thing, I just want to say something about Mike Brown. Right now, we got some teams that are looking for coaches. The Rockets have been doing interviews. The Pistons have been doing interviews. We may see another one or two pop up. No, Mike Brown had been fired as a head coach 3 times. Several times, even when he was on the Warriors bench, you know, coaching seasons would come and go, and I don't think he would even get interviews. People wouldn't even thought, because they thought, well, you know, he's not a head coach anymore. He's not really a head coach, even though his record was pretty good. But, you know, he had the benefit of having LeBron and Kobe help that record. And this is and by the way, Mike would be the first to tell you he's a much better, more seasoned and smart coach in his mid-50s than he was when he was in his late 30s or mid to late 30s when he got his first head coaching job when he was in Cleveland, 2005. But this is an example of how coaches can be like players and get much more dynamic and better, because I think the head coach award is going to be announced on Wednesday, where Mike will almost certainly be. And I'm not sure what day they're. Wednesday. I know there is. But what day is Mr. Clutch, the Jerry West Award that, you know? Anyway, this week the Kings are picking up some hardware. De'Aaron Fox is going to win best clutch player, and Mike's going to win best coach.
I didn't even know Mr. Clutch was a thing. Is that new?
I hope you voted.
Apparently,
that's right. You don't vote.
Yeah.
You don't vote.
Yeah.
Yes. You wrote about it?
Oh, a long time ago.
Man,
yeah,
we
know it. I'm just giving you.
My bad.
I'm just messing with you. Yeah, they introduced it this year. This is the first year, and bone to pick. If there was one award that shouldn't just be a regular season award, it's this one. Anyway, De'Aaron might get it.
Sorry, he's been phenomenal in the 4th quarter. So
And one other thing on his rise, Brian, is that everybody talks about the Halliburton trade. All the nerds like me love Halliburton, but I think the addition by subtraction in that backcourt really opened up a lot of possession opportunities and sort of cleared up a bottleneck there. And Sabonis has obviously been good for them, and nobody's sad to have Tyrese Halliburton on their team. Indiana's not crying either.
Yeah.
Right.
Brian,
well, this is the thing.
I want to go back to Mike real quick. And you know this, you were around him a lot when he was in Cleveland. The Mike Brown that we see with the Kings, I think, is what he learned from Steve is how to relax and let his hair down. Like some of the quotes, like Mike now, Brian, I can't wait for you to see him in a press conference. He's joking. He's having fun. He wasn't doing
He was talking about his grandson.
Yeah.
Which just says a lot. When I met him, his oldest son was, 11.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Yeah.
But
he's let his hair down, and he learned that from Steve. And also, I think and I actually talked to Rich Paul about this a little last night. Like, he had LeBron, he had Kobe. Now he basically finally is able to have his own Clay. And having coached the Nigerian team also helped him learn how to build his own foundation, how to build something from scratch. So he also had a willing audience. To me, it was just a perfect thing, because I think for years he did get a couple interviews when he was with Golden State. But he also had, I remember Brian Shaw used to say, there's a lot of jobs that when he was assistant to Phil Jackson, there's a lot of head coaching jobs that aren't as good as being an assistant coach with the Lakers,
Right.
So, and that's how Mike was in San Francisco. He got a nice condo 2 blocks away from the arena,
He was getting paid really well.
getting paid really well. He didn't have the pressure.
He signed a 5-year deal with the Cavs and got fired after 1, and he got all that money. So he was not only getting paid well by the Warriors, he was still getting paid by the Cavs for many years.
You go to lunch with him and he say, "Oh man, this is on the Gilberts."
Yeah. I used to joke. I remember, like, during the finals in Cleveland, in Cleveland, they have courtside boxes. Like, no other arena has this, where they have almost like little mini suites right next to on the floor. And I remember, like, one shoot around, I was out there joking with Steve and Mike, and I said, "Hey, Steve, you see this box right here, this premiums, that they just have to use that to pay Mike's salary this year."
And he didn't deny it.
No, he had fun with it. When you're fired twice, you can have that. But yeah, Mike's played a huge role. And I got to tell you, if I showed Mike video, the Mike Brown that I knew in 2000, forget about 2005, even like 2007, 8, when because I will say this, and I know we don't want to go too far down memory lane. People want to talk about the playoffs, but in 2007, the Cavs beat the Pistons in the Eastern Conference Finals. It was the first big upset of LeBron's career. They got to the finals, and famously, the Cavs won that game where LeBron scored 29 out of 30 points down the stretch into double overtime. And it's kind of looked at like LeBron just carried those bunch of jokers. But if you ever watch that game, I don't know why you would. It is regularly on NBA TV. But if you ever watch the game, and if you're a Kings fan, maybe you want to watch it. Mike Brown did brilliant coaching that night. I know that it may not seem like it, because you're like, well, how could it be brilliant coaching if a guy did 29 out of 30? Well, I would say watch, and you will see how he coached them into that victory. But if I showed Mike Brown video of this team that runs up and down and plays with this speed and kind of is loosey-goosey defensively and can be gotten to at the rim, he would probably pass out and say, that is not my team. There's no way. I would never have a team like that. So that's a thing.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN Plus right now.